Right, so a couple weeks ago we did a video of kind of a not a Q&A, like the things we wanted to answer. And we asked at the end of it whether or not anybody else wanted to ask us some actual questions, and we'd answer them, and that's what we're doing today. It was cool. We got lots of response, lots of feedback. Really it was sort of a little experiment, and we thought it might be fun, but we didn't think it would be all that popular. But it got actually quite a large amount of response and lots of little questions and answers and stuff needing to be provided. So that's why we're here right now.
Doing this Q&A.
Yeah. So this is our Q&A. Q&A!
Before we do, fun fact.
Fun fact.
Last year when we were living in LA and we were researching this whole moving onto a narrowboat thing, Cruising the Cut did a Q&A video. So I asked him a question and it was bloody exciting that he answered it.
Lots of questions which came through Twitter and Facebook and email and YouTube, and I will try and get through some of these on the old trusty iPad, starting with a question from Joe Smith on email.
That's me.
It's been 12 months since you, me, gave up work, sold the house and moved on to the boat. Is there anything you wish you'd done differently? Any regrets? And
so yeah, if you want to find out how he answered my question, you'll have to go and watch his video, and I'll link that below as well.
Okay, so Pete asks, are you going to be on your boat in the winter? Looks like the old depression is starting to set in.
We are going to be on the boat in winter. We live aboard, it's our home.
And we will be cruising and trying not to get stuck between
winter closures
that are too abominable in places that are too abominable.
We lit our fire for the first time this week, so we think we'll be warm enough. Depression hasn't set in as such from living on the boat.
No, I do have a little bit of a problem with seasonal affective sort of thing. Like I don't deal with too much gray weather very well, but at the same time there's a lot of compensation by life on the boat and stuff.
Yeah, like by being outside and being on the move and
being around wildlife and stuff, and the beautiful green scenery, which will become the beautiful white and muddy scenery at some point, I'm sure. But
wet.
Yeah.
So as much as like cabin fever might set in, it's also going to give you the opportunity to do the work that you want to do. So
yeah, and for the most part, when I've got something to concentrate on, the cabin fever isn't really much of an issue.
I think it's just going to be finding the balance and finding our routine, and getting out and walking George and moving enough.
Right.
Okay, Ted asked a lot of questions.
Yeah. Oh yeah, a bunch of them. So we'll start with, are you two presently working or living off of savings? We are living off of savings at the moment. As we'll no doubt get into later in the video, my work is in visual effects for films, and it has been really good for us for the last little while.
So when we were living in New Zealand, we managed to save up enough money to buy the boat outright. And when we were living in LA, I wasn't working, but we were still managing to save money. So
yeah, so we had enough to cover us for
a few years.
Yeah, at least two.
So the dream is to be able to keep on living aboard and cruising
while earning enough to get by.
And if that doesn't work out, we will probably take a mooring in a couple of years.
And maybe I'll take another job.
Or I'll take a job.
Yeah. Or both of us will take a job, and George will start working. We'll start pimping out the dog.
I mean, he could be a model. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, when we were living in New Zealand and LA, you were working like 50 hours a week, and then your brain was too kind of full to do anything else.
Yeah.
And like life's too short to live like that. So
yeah,
we flipped it basically. So many people work all these long hours to buy these nice things and live in these big houses and have these huge mortgages and drive these big cars. But does it actually make you happy? You don't need a big house. You don't need a big car. You don't need all that money.
Yeah,
there's so much
some water.
Yeah.
Sunshine.
Yeah. So that's basically.
Yeah.
I think I've digressed. So his next question is, how do you use the NHS service as an American?
Right. So basically, as part of my immigration, because I'm on an immigration visa related to being, married to a British citizen, I was able to come in on a 3-year, well, actually 2.5-year visa, and then there's another additional 2.5-year visa after that. And for each of the 2.5 years, you actually pay for the NHS upfront. So
It's like a lump sum.
yeah, so I basically paid for my 2.5 year coverage. So none of you are paying for me. I'm paying for me. Yeah, it's a little different for anybody who's here on like a work visa or anything like that. But because I'm actually going for what they call leave to remain as an immigration setup, it's I don't require any like private insurance. I just prepay for the NHS.
And you've used the NHS and pretty impressed.
Oh yeah, totally. Coming from, I mean, I've been lucky is the wrong word, enough to experience the medical systems of Vietnam, India, New Zealand, England, Canada, and the United States. And basically, I'd say that the worst of the lot by a very large margin is the United States.
Which is funny because people in the States like have this fear of
everything else. They have this idea, like people in America have this idea that like the United States system is the greatest in the world. And what I'd say is it is the most well provisioned in the world and the least well managed.
Yeah, well provisioned, but not accessible to the majority of people because they just simply can't afford it.
I found the NHS to be an amazing setup, and I think that single payer healthcare is like definitely the way to go. The NHS does have its issues, but I haven't experienced any of them.
Okay, how does your visa work for staying in the UK?
How does the visa work for staying in the UK? Well, this is basically, I'm on an immigration visa. The immigration visa allows me to stay for 2.5 years, and then at the end of it, I need to apply for another 2.5 years. At the end of that, I can apply for leave to remain, which allows me to stay permanently.
Oh, if you need to receive packages, how do you work that out? They go to my mum's.
They go to her mum's.
My mum lives in Croydon, so it hasn't been too far away. And for other reasons, we've been back and forth. But as we get further and further away from London, it's going to get harder, isn't it?
It is going to get harder. We were able to get the solar delivered directly to the boat. We've been able to take advantage of some chains like Maplin, B&Q and everything that will allow you to order online and have it delivered to a store that's near you.
Yeah. But yeah, we're going to have to work out other means.
Yeah, if you're not on Amazon Prime, it seems you can't get stuff delivered to like locker locations, which is a little bit weird because there are quite a few lockers around, but
then you have to pay for Prime.
You have to pay for Prime. There is a thing that I'm going to have to look up called post-retant, which allows us to have the UK mail actually forward stuff to other addresses for us, but we haven't gotten to the point where we need that yet. So.
Okay. Did you rent a boat out before you bought one?
Nope, we just bought one.
Okay. How long did your boat search take? So we arrived back in England in January after moving back from the States and having Christmas in Canada, and we had 3 or 4 weeks to look then, and we must have looked at about 20 boats then, all up and down the country. And we learned a lot of lessons about
really
what we wanted and what we didn't want. And
who not to buy from.
Yeah. We spent February in India and March in Nepal, and then we arrived back in April. And we actually found the boats in the first week we were back. Like I'd basically done a huge search and I'd planned this big tour all over the country to look at every possible boat within our length range and price range. And this was like the first marina we went to, and yeah. Actually, there's 2 boats we offered on in January.
Yeah.
One of them, the first one, it was more money than we wanted to spend, and we put in a cheeky offer and we knew it would get refused, and it got refused. But looking back, it probably wasn't the boat for us anyway.
No. And then the other one was the one that was the private sale, that it was another couple who'd been traveling for quite a few years on board, and it was set up as a liveaboard. And it was a very good price. And I'd have been happy with that one. We made an offer on it, but at the end of the day, they wouldn't sell
without a survey.
Well, we wouldn't buy without a survey, and they didn't have time.
But basically,
due to a health concern.
They were selling their house, so they had a time constraint on the money, and they had an offer the same day, and the other couple were happy to go ahead without a survey.
Yeah.
And they actually gave us a chance to go ahead without a survey because we offered first. And I think because they knew we wanted to live aboard, and they knew we wanted to travel the whole network, and that's what they'd been doing. I think they had kind of this soft spot that they'd prefer to sell to us.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, because we were insisting on a survey and the other couple weren't, it just made sense to them to not have to drive their home to a marina to get a survey. So.
And in the long run, I've got to say that if I hadn't had a survey, I'd have been terrified.
Like, I did believe them, and I do believe that boat would probably, or definitely...
It's probably a perfect
fine.
boat in perfect condition, and everybody's fine, but...
At the end of the day, we weren't prepared to risk. So this question's from somebody called TPP 2001.
So why choose a narrowboat and English canals, rather than a sailboat which could take you to Europe, the Mediterranean, and other adventures?
So one reason was the immigration, and then the other reason is I've got no experience with sailing. You have a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm pretty daunted by the idea, like maybe in the future, but...
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of ocean sailing. I hate the idea of ocean powerboating. I love the idea of sailing around the world. I love the idea of sailing like the South Asian seas and things like that.
It's not something we definitely don't want to do, but I don't think it's something we strongly feel we want to do anytime soon.
No, but it could definitely be sort of...
an idea that grows.
Yeah.
Okay, Matt says, what one thing would both of you say would you settle down in one place for? Nothing.
Yeah, pretty much nothing.
Unless we got bored of moving.
Which I can't imagine doing.
Like, there's no reason to settle down in one place, like, other than society expecting you to, or you being conditioned that that's how life is. I think, like, for the past 4 years, like, we haven't had anything tying us down. Like, we sold all of our possessions, and I think that's something that anchors you to a place, because you think, what am I going to do with all my stuff? Well, as soon as you get rid of all your stuff,
you don't have that anchor.
It's lighter. Like, we moved from New Zealand with suitcases, we moved from LA with suitcases, like...
And the suitcases kept getting lighter.
Yeah.
You get one life, and it's not particularly long, and it's on this one ball that's actually pretty small, and there's only so much you're going to get to see, so you may as well see as much of it as you can. If there were something that I was doing where I felt like I was really contributing to lives...
Yeah, or you were getting as much out of staying still as you do out of moving.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm not ruling out stopping.
No, but, like...
But I can't see one thing being like, oh, we'll have to stop now.
No.
Other than money.
Like money or health. If I get cleaved in half by an onrushing boat, then might have some problems. But,
Stephen Morehouse. How narrow is narrow?
Very narrow.
I want a video clip of you and Joe walking past each other in opposite directions inside the boat. Your brother's annoying.
Yeah.
Ian, I'd be interested in finding out how you receive training to pilot a narrowboat. We don't actually need training. Like, anyone can just get on a narrowboat and go.
Yeah.
Like, when you hire a boat, they give you, I don't know, half an hour to talk or tuition. And
if you hire a boat and you're going out for multiple days, they might do a little bit longer conversation with you.
But it depends on the company.
Yeah. If you're interested in, like, what we're doing, where you're living on a boat, there is a course from the Royal Yacht Association, the RYA Helmsman's course. That's what we took through WILLOW WREN, link in the thing I do below. They were incredibly helpful, and I feel like it was, like, so amazingly well spent money.
Doing the course
just in every way built your confidence up. Like, you know, the physics of how these things work is not... It's not that complicated, but it is convoluted. Like, there's an amount of density to it, because it's like, oh, if you look over the water and you can see a change in the surface ripples, it means that wind's coming in, and that wind can have a very significant effect on your boat. And you need to know the difference between sort of ripples from wind and ripples from currents under the water and stuff. And yeah, there's
this myth that you can't reverse on you can't steer and reverse on a narrowboat. Well,
yeah, they showed us how to do that. And admittedly, we made it easier for ourselves by getting a boat that has bow thrusters, which is cheating, I know.
Everyone calls us cheaters. We weren't looking for a boat with a bow thruster.
It just happened to have one. It's just,
And there's like safety aspects that they teach you about. And they've actually, they've got a small YouTube channel, and they've made some videos on like maneuvering and mooring.
Springing and knot tying.
And they're quite a good starting place to watch it. I mean, they're not a replacement for doing the course by any means. Like it's, if you want to learn properly, then the course is what you should do. But they're
but
quite
if you're sitting at a distance and thinking about it,
they're quite interesting to watch as well. So we'll link them below. Okay, the indie projects.
Where's the best place you've stayed in the narrowboat?
I'd say either Hampton Court Palace.
That was pretty strange. I was like sitting outside Hampton Court Palace and taking a delivery of a toilet. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So I'd say either somewhere like Hampton Court Palace, or when you find a mooring like absolutely remote in the middle of nowhere with no one, no buildings, no train.
Mm-hmm.
Like that one in Wargrave was really nice.
Yeah,
the one
I
by
really liked Wargrave.
Clevedon was really nice.
Yeah.
But to be honest, the best thing is the fact that you are in somewhere different every day, every week.
Yeah.
As often as you want, you are somewhere different, and that is the best.
Yeah.
John O'Rourke says,
we were trying to figure out where Michael was from with his lack of accent. Where am I from with my lack of accent? I always say everywhere, because I was born in Oklahoma. I moved to California, from California to Canada, from Canada to Saudi Arabia. I lived in Saudi Arabia for most of my young years before ending up back in Canada, in a place about an hour outside of Vancouver and 100 million years from sort of the bright center of the universe at the time. It's okay now, but yeah, it wasn't my favorite place to be a teenager. Vancouver, Toronto, Los Angeles, bit of time in San Francisco, more time in Los Angeles. Spent a year hopping around the world, been to Palau, been to India, been to Vietnam. I also went to New Zealand.
For a year and a half.
I went, year and a half in New Zealand. It seems like everywhere I go, I pick up little bits of intonation and lose little bits. So
and now he's learning British.
Now I'm learning British.
And this is like in reference to the other video we were talking about. Jean says, is that a wedding photo towards the end? Yes.
Yes.
Here's some more.
Yeah, we got married in Malibu in 2016.
And we were really lucky because we were living in Venice Beach in Los Angeles at the time. We were really lucky, and lots of family and friends came over.
Yeah, people were able to come down from Canada. People were coming from England.
And
they were my friends from LA. And
married just before sunset.
Yeah, at a place we rented on Airbnb from a musician. It was pretty crazy. Worked out really well.
We ate Asian food. Okay, Bob says, I want to hear more of the story of helping the elephant to poo.
So, we met in Vietnam and immediately parted ways. I was going north and Joe was going south. We kept in touch on Facebook and everything, and then we decided to meet again about 2 months and a half later. So I flew to Chiang Mai, and we decided to take a
Well, the whole reason I went to Chiang Mai was to go to this
elephant nature park.
Yeah, it's amazing elephant sanctuary.
Yeah, we decided to go together. So we took it was a 3-day trip out there. And it was really amazing. We got to feed the elephants, we got to pet the elephants, we got to bathe the elephants. This is a very different
tourist experience. Like, it's in the same area, there's lots of like trekking camps where you can ride an elephant and get them to paint a picture and just do all these unnatural things that elephants shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, and they really, really, really don't like doing, and they have to be beaten to do them.
Whereas this park, elephants are just
allowed to be free.
And these are elephants who are begging elephants or logging elephants.
Yeah, there's ones who've stepped on landmines and lost a leg.
So we were getting to meet all these elephants and walking around with our guide to where they were. And you met this really one special elephant.
And this particular one, she had her hip destroyed when...
it's basically forced breeding.
Yeah, she'd been forced to mate in a camp, I believe it was a logging camp, and the bull elephant had basically crushed her hip.
Because she was chained at the time.
Yeah.
And this this lovely elephant, you could see the shape of her leg, like it didn't come down, it like came out at the side and then down.
Back, every time she walked, her hip bent and
it was really uncomfortable to watch.
it looked so painful.
But she was living out this life away from cruelty, and
Yeah.
you know.
And so I just kind of walked up to her and was just petting her behind the ear and stuff, and basically
She relaxed.
she relaxed. You know, I had one hand up and I'm just sort of feeling behind her ear, and like a dog, she just started kind of like, she started flapping her ear and sort of leaning into me, and all of a sudden I've got 2 tons leaning into me, and
2 tons of poo coming out the other end.
and I was petting her back, and all of a sudden she just sort of relaxed and pooped, and
It's a special moment for
it
you.
was a special moment.
Okay, Michael, what was it like being in the cave so long? Was it solo or with a group?
It sure as hell wasn't solo. I'd still be in there. No, it was a group. Hang Son Dung, the largest cave in the world, was found in 2009, and I should say it was rediscovered in 2009, and I knew about it from a National Geographic article, and I wanted to be near it, like to go to the place where you could go near it, and do a tour of a nearby cave called Hang En, which is just got this enormous chamber, and it's like a one-day walk down to it. You spend a night there and you do a walk back. I got up for breakfast one day and turned right instead of left and met this guy Ben, who runs a hotel there. And Ben, this crazy Australian guy, basically just told me that they were about to open the cave for actual tours, and did I want to go meet the guy from the British Caving Association who had actually gone in and sort of mapped the cave. And we jumped on the back of a scooter and went over and ultimately ended up meeting the Vietnamese guy Hao Con, who had actually found the cave the first time and found it again. And Howard Limbert and his wife Deb, they talked me into, Howard really talked me into putting down a chunk of change because it wasn't
Your average.
It wasn't
tourist.
your average tourist thing. They were opening up the cave for the first tour, and the Vietnamese government had allowed it to happen. On like the 1st of August, we all got into a bunch of great big, huge trucks, like literally dump trucks, and got dropped off where we took a one-day walk down to Hang En, spent the night at Hang En, then did a all-day trek through rivers and jungle and everything to get to the mouth of Hang Son Dung. And the mouth of this cave is, about the size of a narrowboat, and you have to crawl through a thing that's barely bigger than me to actually get into it. And then you've got to go down an 80-foot vertical drop on some ropes and stuff, and then you've got to cross the river, and then you walk through pitch darkness until you come to what's called a dough line, where there's actually a part that's caved in and some light is coming down. And that's when you find out that you're standing in something that's 300 meters in diameter. Like this is the largest cave on the planet. You could fly a 747 through parts of it and just barrel roll and never touch anything. And so it was 6 days total, 3 days in, 3 days out. Made it all the way to the end by an accident of the canoe we were on getting turned around. It was me, Ben, on the canoe with one of the Vietnamese guides. I got to touch the cave at the end, a thing they call the Great Wall of Vietnam, and became the first tourist ever to touch the end of Hang Son Dung. So it was just blind luck, really.
And then what happened when you came out of the cave?
And then I met her.
Finally, last question. Mike says, okay, the films bit, more info please. And this is another reference to the first video.
So I started my film career years ago while I was in school, and I started working as a prep technician and camera technician sort of thing on a lot of different movies where we would rent cameras to people, and ultimately worked for Panavision, the company that rents most of the movie cameras to most of the world's big productions and stuff, until 2007. And then the collapse happened of the U.S. economy, and I decided to switch into a related field, which was visual effects. I got hired by Digital Domain, the company that did the Titanic movie. Was lucky enough to work on Tron and Tron Legacy and Thor, the first Thor movie, and the first G.I. Joe movie. I think the third Iron Man movie, a bunch of other stuff. After taking a year off to travel, I got hired by Weta Digital over in New Zealand, and that's where I got to go work on the last Hobbit movie, Batman and Superman, and the Hunger Games, and the second Planet of the Apes. Sounds weird to say second Planet of the Apes movie because there's been like 20 of the Planet of the Apes movies.
And Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yeah, Alvin and the Chipmunks 3, the second Squeakle. At the end of the day, I'm a computer programmer for visual effects. And why I actually said I've contributed in ways no one has ever seen. I write pipeline code, so I write stuff that happens with like databases and things, and people do this. And but I have supported some amazing artwork, and I have made it possible for some of that art to happen.
Okay, so thank you very much for watching. Hope you liked the video.
Let us know if you have more questions, and we'll do this again at some point. Don't let us know about more questions. We're not going to do this again at some point. But, you know, it's fine. You can ask it in your maiden name if you want to. She decided to talk to this strange man a world away, but back near where she was from.
He's not strange.
He's not strange. I mean, it's not strange, not an unusual man. I mean, you know, he was not known to me, other than on video.
He was a stranger.
Yes, he was a stranger, and Joe decided to contact him, you know, in her maiden name voice and talk to him about, you know, his life and stuff, so.
Okay.
It's her!
We got married last year in Malibu.
Last year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coming up on our second anniversary.
Yeah, still last year.
No, it wasn't last year.
Yes, it was. We got married in 2016.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. Last calendar year. Yes.
What else am I going to mean?
This is... if...
George
dog just farted.
Is that what you think of it?
Yeah. Not that anybody cares, because how many of you remember Tron Legacy? Also, I've
Stop talking.
made sure that, you know, human culture has gotten worse in a lot of ways by contributing to Transformers. Where's the best place you've stayed in the narrowboat? The bedroom. Also, George.
Oh, God. We don't have to do a George update.
No,
every
somebody
video.
did ask a question about George. George is doing really well. See these things back here? Yeah. Those have become his new obsession. And not these particular ducks, well, it might be these particular ducks. A couple of days ago, middle of the night, I was walking him in the dark. I had a headlamp on. He leaps into the river and goes swimming like at least 100 yards after some of those ducks. This dog can no longer be trusted around ducks. Right now he's ignoring them, but it's only because he knows how pissed... Oh, nope, there he is. He's looking. Okay, all right, we better go.